and welcome to another Legal Tech Talk. My name's Frances Anderson, I'm the Managing Director of Netlaw Media. So today I am thrilled to have our third Legal Tech Talk where we're looking at the story of Spain. So as before, we look at the global technological landscape. The speakers today, who will introduce themselves, will explore the growth of legal tech in Spain, the drivers for global collaboration in legal innovation, technology as a business enabler. So today I'm thrilled to have Professor Richard Susskind, who will lead this session. So just to give a little introduction before I go through the various housekeeping, he's an author, speaker, independent advisor to international professional firms, general counsel, judiciaries, and national governments. His main area of expertise is the future of legal service, with particular reference to the impact of information technology. He's specialized in legal technology since the early 1980s, and his views have influenced a generation of lawyers and legal technologists around the world. So before we go into the individual panelists, now with the various housekeeping, just the general rules, if you would like to ask a question, please put it through chat. It would be great to have your views. We'd love to have you, your thoughts on what we're going to discuss today, or put it in through the Q&A, or if you'd like to join us, put your hand up near the end and then we'll pull you in that way. So without further ado, Richard, it's over to you.
Well, thank you very much, Frances. Good morning, everyone. So I'm Richard Susskind and I'm chairing this session. I'm feeling, this is slightly childish, but I'm feeling especially qualified to chair the session because I'm just back from 2 days in Spain, so I'm in the mood. What we're going to do, I'm going to say a few words by way of introduction to what I see as happening in the world of legal technology. And then we have four fantastic speakers who are going to take a few minutes each, both to introduce themselves and then talk about the legal world and technology and change from their own points of view. Then we'll have a little bit of a discussion with ourselves and amongst ourselves, and then there'll be an opportunity to take questions from the floor that Frances is going to mediate and moderate for us. So that's the rough structure of the day. As I say, the four speakers will introduce themselves as we go along. For my part, I just wanted to say a little bit about what I think is happening in the world of legal technology. But the starting point actually is the world of technology. And I like to think there are three interesting features. The first is that our machines are becoming increasingly capable. Our systems are becoming increasingly capable. They're doing more and more. Forget for a second about the enabling technologies, whether they be AI or blockchain or all the rest of it. The big point is our machines are becoming increasingly capable. And this means they're taking on tasks, many of which in the past we thought could only be undertaken by human beings. So we're living in a remarkable time, a time I think of greater technological progress than humanity has ever witnessed. And the pace of change is accelerating. So the second point is there doesn't seem to be any finishing line. It's not the case that people in China or Silicon Valley or South Korea are beginning to say, well, that's the end of technology. Let's plateau for a while or move on to something else. Quite the reverse. As I say, the pace of change is accelerating. So not only are systems doing more and more, but they're actually almost by the day, we hear news of new systems, products, apps, solutions, startups and all the rest of it. Now, this leads to a rather strange conclusion, and I can't prove this, but when you think of what I call uninvented technologies that haven't yet been invented, they're likely to change our ways of living and working over the next decade in ways that we can't simply anticipate. So I say by 2030, for example, the way we run our courts, the way we deliver legal services will likely have been transformed by technologies that have not yet been invented. Can't prove that, but that's the general trajectory. And I don't think I overstate it in trying to capture the changes in these ways. What does that mean, therefore, for legal technology? Well, I have a list of 10 trends for the 20s, but let me just pick out 3 before we get into the far more important part of the discussion today, which is other people speaking. The first thing I want to say is we're going to move from what I call automation to what I call innovation. Automation is basically computerizing what we already do. And the first 65 years of legal technology and court technology was devoted essentially to applying technology to streamline and improve and hopefully make a bit more efficient our current working practices. And that has taken us far enough. But if you look across other sectors, if you look at the way other industries have been transformed by technology, it's not simply a question of grafting technology onto our old ways of working. It's using technology, and I call this innovation, to allow us to do things that previously weren't possible. That's the great power of technology. And we haven't given this nearly enough thought in law, how it is that we can use existing and emerging technologies to allow us to solve some of the big challenges, whether it be the access to justice challenge, or whether it be trying to manage the costs of commercial legal services. We've got to think about how technology doesn't automate our old ways of working, but enables us to change. A second aspect to this, and I think this is something that Laura may want to speak about, is that I think we'll see technology changing the client experience. So the way in which we have always interacted, that's to say lawyers and clients, has been often a face-to-face interaction. It's been a one-to-one consultative advisory service. But when we take a step back and we start using technology more pervasively, as we had to during the pandemic, we can see there's very different ways for lawyers and clients to interact. And we haven't yet thought this through, how these systems should be designed, how they should be built around the needs of users. But I have little doubt in the 20s that the client experience will be radically different. And the third and final point I want to make is that and this is the biggest change for me anyway, that I see in professional services, we will move away from this one-to-one consultative advisory model increasingly to producing legal solutions, legal products, either online or perhaps embedded in the working processes and practices of our clients. So that's the huge change, that no longer is the only way that professional insight and expertise and experience imparted, the only way it's imparted historically has been through advice and interaction. We will find through online service and other techniques different ways, whether it be online assembly of documents, online legal diagnostics, online dispute resolution. We'll find very different ways, I think, of delivering legal service. So that's my little introduction. Our machines are becoming increasingly capable. There's no finishing line, and watch out for these as yet uninvented technologies. Three big changes in legal technology. First, this move from automation to innovation. Secondly, I think we'll see a change in the client experience. And thirdly, a shift away over time from advice to products and solutions. So what we're now going to do is turn to our guests, and thank you each of you for coming to join us today. It's great to see you. What we're trying to do is roam around the world and try and get a snapshot in different countries of how legal technology is being used. And I want to start today, as we always want to start, I think, with clients. I think it's important, and this is where Gloria takes over, that we get a sense from the client of her or his perspective on how it is that the market is unfolding, what challenges they face. So Gloria, if I can hand over to you and introduce yourself, you have the floor for about 5 minutes. Welcome. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Richard. Thank you all. It's a pleasure being here today with you, talking about legal tech and innovation. Well, I will first introduce myself. I work at a bank, at a global bank, Santander Bank, in the legal department. My team has somehow a double role. One is a more traditional legal role, as we are in charge of the legal advice to IT and IP and digital projects, as well as reviewing all the digital regulation that is coming up in Europe and in other countries. So we are pretty busy these days. But also we are in charge of transformation of the legal function, of the in-house legal function. And that has a lot to do with what Richard just explained, the way we provide services to our clients. And in this case, as we are in-house to our businesses, to our company, we've been, I think I've been in this role for more than nearly 4 years now, and we've been learning a lot along the way. Just to give you just some flavor of what we've been doing. The first thing when we start with this transformation function was to reconsider what we were doing, how we provide services to our clients, and how we could automate and provide better services to our clients. I mean, more than better services, provide the services in an easier and more simple way. because we are, as banking lawyers, we tend to be traditional, maybe more than in other industries, and we need to reconsider how we provide that. We did a lot, along these years, we did a lot of automating and self-servicing, and we introduced different technologies from the most simple ones, I would say, like document management systems. This is something that law firms have had along many years now. From that to machine learning and contract reading and data extract tools and things like that. So we learned a lot along the way. And Richard just mentioned that he thinks that we will go from optimization to innovation. And from my own experience in-house, I had to say that we have done a lot of optimization. That's true. When people talk about innovation, I say, well, the truth is that we do a lot of automation, a lot of optimization. But I tend to think that we have done some innovation as well. In the projects that we have innovated, I think were those projects where we sit next to our machine learning laboratory. We sit next to them and we try to implement tools to analyze contracts and to analyze text. So that, I mean, many law firms and many legal techs are doing that, but we try to do it as well on our own. So that was kind of innovation. As I said, we learn a lot along the way because many things that we have done have gone well, and many others we have had to revisit them and review what we have done, and sometimes we have need to change what we have done or reconsider if the tool was the best one or not. After some years, you need to reconsider these kind of things. Also, I mean, there are many questions we talked before about providing services, and many of the technologies that we used to have on-premise now are moving to the cloud. That's something that is happening in many industries, but also in legal tech. You have technology as a services, so you don't need to buy license to have them on-premise, but you, in many cases, you just try the technology as a service. I mean, as you do in your own mobile with the apps and the things you tend to use on a daily basis. So it became more easy to access and more convenient, I would say. So I just have a couple of minutes to not to cope the whole conversation. Just wanted to give you some little tips that are about things that we learned along the way. First is that more complex things are not necessarily the best ones. You can do very well, but simple. Also, I would say that you need to focus a lot on the user. This meaning that the user experience of your services, of your technology needs to be good, the same as it is good when you use your smartphone or any other device that you use. And this meaning that you need to talk to your users in the previous stages of the implementation of technology, but also after implementation. As I said, you need to revisit and reconsider the things that you have implemented. And last thing, I would say that you need to think a lot about the importance of data, the data that the legal department uses, the data that the legal department creates, and how this data can be used also for the business. So that's, in my opinion, three interesting tips, at least from my point of view. Thank you.
Thank you, Gloria. And if I can just ask you, when you speak to your general counsel about this, at the highest level within your organization, what are the results, the outcomes that people are wanting of you in change? Is it to reduce cost? Is it to manage risk better? Is it to become closer to the business? Just frame that for us, because people listening and say, well, you're the client. What is it you're trying to achieve?
Yeah, in our case, because that depends a lot on the organization and the goals of the organization, as you said, but in my case, I would say that it's managing risk in a better and simple way. And that also relates to the banking business is about managing risks, and also providing better services and how the client feels about what we do, the timing, how we use the timing and how we use resources, but mostly risk and client opinion, I would say.
That's great. And thank you very much for that. It leads, I think, very nicely into what Laura's going to speak to us about. So thank you, Gloria. Now, Laura specializes in thinking about how to design the systems and solutions and services. So Laura, over to you. You can explain a little bit about your background, what it is you do, and you can enlighten us, because this is a fascinating, evolving area that more and more lawyers are taking seriously.
Mm-hmm. Thank you, Richard. So yeah, let's first introduce myself. I'm a Spanish-French or French-Spanish, however you want to frame this. I was a court interpreter originally. I'm not a lawyer. That's how I landed into the legal industry. Then I reconverted into a legal marketer. From legal marketer, I became a legal tech consultant. And from being a legal tech consultant, I reconverted into being a legal design practitioner and legal design trainer. So that's what I am currently doing. And the evolution I have been seeing, and how I see that the legal industry is currently here in Spain, is that professionals didn't really know before COVID, like the mass amount of lawyers were not that aware of all the tech possibilities. It was still really belonging to the tech-savvy lawyers and the young generations, and now because of COVID, because of the pandemic, they have discovered that there is this whole broad world of tech, of legal tech. And they have been testing, the legal industry has been testing, like what I say, emergency tech, like what do we need to survive to this period? And they have been doing this still with their analogical way of thinking. And now that the urgency seems to have passed for some kind of never-ending uncertainty, but then professionals feel like empowered to use technology because they have managed to do this and to survive thanks to this in a very difficult situation. So now people are testing, many firms, many in-house legal departments, they feel this empowerment and they say, okay, let's find some sustainable technology, some sustainable solutions. And most of them, I would say, most unfortunately for now, they start doing this without the help of methodology of design thinking and this kind of method. And take, for example, contract automation. We were talking before. I would say somehow automation is analogical thinking, and innovation is more digital thinking. And many people are still in this analogical way of thinking, and they just, for example, decide, okay, let's automate contract, both firms and in-house legal departments. They discover there are a lot of tools, and two things can happen. Either they take the tool, and once they start looking at their templates and they say, oh, there is something, definitely a human things I need to do before automatizing that, because this is way, way improvable. So that happens. Or no, and they don't realize it, or they have good templates, and then they implement them, and then the tool is not being used internally, and they have this problem. So in both cases, it's not a tech problem. And that's when they realize that it's not a tech problem, it's a human problem. It's a shift in the way of working. It's a shift in the way of thinking that they need to be doing. And now that's why we're having this very increasing interest for all kind of methodology, agility, project management, design thinking. And that's when typically they will come to me and for help and saying, we need to embed this technology in our somehow more global strategy. And that's exactly what we do, because now companies are willing to understand their needs, and they want to have really tools that will focus on them. So they want to first understand and phrase their needs properly, and then create their solutions, not the other way around, not like, okay, there is this tech we could adopt. No, let's create our strategy, our use of tech. And then eventually we look into the technology that already exists, or we build what we need to build, but from their very own idea. So main work now is really to change this frame of this analogical frame of mind, to transform it in a really digital one, And I want to think that in the near future, that will be done by default, and that from the beginning, that will happen. They will use methodologies to really create user-centric tools since the beginning. But for now, it is used usually after some failures, after some mistakes, when they realize that the focus was not enough on human. And that's when tech adoption usually fails. So that's what I currently see here. And that's the work I'm doing with my clients.
Thanks very much. Really interesting and helpful. I'm trying to get a sense of the level at which you work. So let me give you an example. I often say in the context of healthcare that people don't want doctors, people want health. And that's just to make the point that we often assume that the way we've always delivered our solutions is the only way that we can deliver our solutions, and we forget what it is that people are actually after in the first place. And so the similar question you could ask, I think, I always say people don't want law firms, they want what? And is that the kind of level of discussion you're having, or is it at a different level where you're saying, look, you're designing all these systems and so forth, and you're forgetting to make them useful for users? So is this strategic about the purpose of service, or is it more operational about user friendliness?
It's both. I don't think it can be divided. So you have the operational side.
Sorry, can I explain? I know the distinction. I'm asking. It's just a practical question about what are people asking you to help them with? I'm trying to pinpoint. Is the profession recognizing there's a strategic need, or are they still coming to you for operational questions?
Okay. I would say there has been an evolution, and now they are asking more for the strategic. It starts with operational. It used to be more operational, and now actually the level of the people in their organizations, like it's now typically a GC coming and saying, we need this.
Okay, that's really, really helpful. So what we've done so far is we've heard from the client, and then we've heard about how the kinds of techniques you should use in terms of design systems and solutions. Now we want to turn to someone within a major law firm who's actually involved with designing, developing, implementing some of these solutions. And I'm going to hand over now to Francesc to introduce himself and tell us about the journey he's been on and the activities that he's engaged in on a daily basis. Francesc, very, very warm welcome, and thank you again, Laura.
Thank you, Richard. It's my pleasure to be here with you and to share with all of you about what we are doing and how we are managing and leading this transformation. First of all, just to introduce myself, I'm a telecommunications engineer. So I was the rara avis in the law firm 24 years ago when I joined the firm. Now my team is really big. So we are more than 80 people headcount, managing and leading all the technologies, but not only technologies, that what we are doing here, because we are managing other things beyond IT, as culture, as digital dexterity. So we are doing several things. So I have also an MBA at the SADE Business School. So we try to really to be close to the business and to understand the business. And you mentioned some things about managing the firms first. And first, I would like to say that we are really an international law firm. So the partners of the Madrid office are partners of the Bogota office, and the partners of the Mexico office are partners of the Barcelona office. So we all are partners. And this means that we all have the same business and that we all have the same information systems that support the full business. So there are a lot of law firms that they have separate businesses. Ours is really one single business that we provide to the whole company. Beyond that, so you know that we are passionate about the innovations. We have been leading in the innovation in Spain through our program with legal tech startups that we launched in 2016, the Cuatro Acelera acceleration program. And we are also we have been helping to create the legal tech hub in Spain, and also we are also involved with ESADE in all the business transformation with ESADE. So we are really working in this ecosystem that it's beyond again the law and IT. So as CIO of Convergence, I have the mission first to lead the digital transformation. This is key for us, to anticipate the needs of the firm through innovation and knowledge of business processes. Third is to promote new ways of working, so this and capabilities of the employees is really important. And third is to manage information systems in an efficient and secure manner. Security is really key, as you know, for law firms, but for clients too. So this strategic plan of IT is really a part of the firm strategic plan. So I mean, we are not separate for the business, we are business, and this ensures the right alignment between business priorities and IT roadmap. And this is done, this is key, to govern IT is key, and we have created this layer of governance of IT, not only by words, but with facts. So the managing partner is involved in this government of the IT, and we have meetings with him to report how the strategic plan evolves, and so really is something that is really linked and together. I like it what you said at the beginning, Richard, about the legal solution and legal products, and this is really a topic that it's been thinking in the firm. It's about we are just lawyers, and we are just lawyers, and we have to be something different than lawyers. So we have to build technology into legal in order to provide some end-to-end legal product. This is something that is being discussed. But while we are discussing this, what we do is, okay, let's put technology together with the legal systems in order to first better deliver a better quality to clients with legal project management solutions that we are embedding into these legal solutions that we provide. We really deliver to clients a better understanding of how is the matter, of what are the main KPIs of the matter. They can really have those information and link it together to work to more efficiently together. So we will be at some time software. I don't think so. What I think is that really technology is going to help, of course, the legal business, and it's going to help the lawyers. I see really, the way I see things driving this is about human interaction with technology is more, I mentioned it before, is more an ex-lawyer. So having really tools to really provide a faster, better, with less risk legal solutions to the business. And of course, we do innovation things with technology as AI and others. Yes, we have worked and deploy an anonymization for GDPR internally. We are working to extract information from videos from the courts. So we're really working a lot with AI. And finally, yes, to finalize my first talk. But I will go later on, because I want to explain how we are dealing with the culture of the firm through working with agile methodologies, our agile framework. Also, how we're pushing the transformation of the business by the transformation of the people, how we are doing these digital dexterity programs. So I will go later on a bit about how we do those things.
Thank you very much, Francesc. Now, just before we go on, to the final speaker, I just wanted to ask you a little bit about the obstacles and barriers you face, because you work in a leading legal practice. It's a very successful firm. The reality is that many senior individuals are perhaps not that sympathetic to fundamental change, and they're doing well enough without fundamental change. To what extent do you find yourself focusing on those who want to change, or to what extent do you find yourself trying to convert those who are perhaps rather more reluctant? What's it like in practice? Is it an uphill battle, or are you now feeling that the mainstream lawyers are working with you?
it's both. I mean, I believe that the mainstream lawyers are working with me, but of course, we are people and technology, I say always, you really, well, the law firms are plenty of shelves of technology in the shelf, and it's deployed, but nobody uses it. So this is clear. So really, change management is key here. So really to push and to really drive this change is key. So we have really to, this is something that we build from scratch. From us is change by design. Okay, this is something that we embedded into the first thing when we think a new solution, and we have to really to keep this change management and user adoption as a KPI really key for us. So we manage both things. So the mainstream is there, but of course, people are difficult. So we are difficult to change, and we have to really focus on how to make easier this change for them. But it's a barrier of course, it's one of the main barriers. Yes.
Well, thanks very much. And and this again takes us nicely to our final speaker, Marlene. And you are a partner, of course, in a professional firm. You're heavily involved, as I understand it, with litigation, but very interesting to hear your point of view. So we've come from the client to design, from the technologist, and now through to the provider. So if you can tell us a little bit about what your work and interest is and how you see the future unfolding, that'd be great.
Yeah. So good morning, everyone. It's a pleasure to be here with you at the Global Tech Talk. I'm Marlene Estevez, and yes, I'm a partner at Roca Jungent. I study business and law, so I had also this business side, which is really useful right now for the moment, as I am a board member. In the firm, I'm in charge of the litigation, mediation, and arbitration practice, and I lead, I'm the head of innovation. Innovation right now is, as you know, one of the main pillars, I think, for every law firm that would like to survive in the future. And we are a big team composed of people from trainees, secretary, marketing, leaders, partners. So we are all involved, because at the end, it's all about culture. And we knew that it's not just what we are doing. It doesn't relate only about technology. It's about innovation. It's trying to identify needs and problems that we have and try to find solutions for those problems. Sometimes that solution could be found with technology, and sometimes not. So we divide our work from what we understand is our internal client, which are the partners and the teams, and the external client. And what we are doing is, in order to change that culture, is we have organized legal talks like these ones, when we invite people, not from the legal industry, for other industries, to tell us what they are doing. And with doing that, we got a lot of inspiration on other ideas, because, as you say, Richard, many times, this is going to change, no? And we are living right now that, and we need to be part of that change. And sometimes that kind of change could come from other industries and sectors, and that's what we are trying to do. Also, what we are doing is we are working very close to software developers. At the beginning, that's a big challenge, because anyone understood, like, no, lawyers do not understand with software developers, no? And in fact, we do. And that's why we've won the last 2 editions of the Global Legal Hackathon with 2 different projects. And that's important, not because of the winning, because we prove that when teaming up with legal developers, the result can be faster and, bigger and understandable than if we just work between lawyers. So that was very important. Additionally, we are working right now in developing another additional internal tool for dispute resolution. As I say, and that's what you asked me, we are going through that, but we are working on what we call the construction contract management that help us to develop. When we arrive and to a proceeding, a judicial or IDR proceeding, at the end, it's everything about evidence. It's everything about proving our, position and convincing the judge of something. So this kind of, sometimes what we miss in those proceedings is that evidence. So what we are trying to build is to help companies to keep that evidence along their life with technology, so that when the dispute is given to me, we have of that evidence, block and package, and we do not lose that information. Because what I say when the client comes sometimes and they say, Marlene, I'm right, they have breached the contract. I say, I don't care, sorry, it's just about what we can prove. And sometimes, it happened a lot also with construction companies and infrastructure projects, is that what we miss is that evidence. Again, normally the people that lead those kind of projects are engineers, and we need to teach the engineers, and the engineers need to teach us. So this is what we are doing from a dispute resolution perspective, to give you an idea. Truly is that a lot has developed, and we have the major change have taken place within courts and with IDR disputes, a lot, thanks to the pandemic, a lot in Spain. We were, before the pandemic, our courts were just digital because we were sending all the information online. We have a program which is called LexNet, that digitalized the court's proceeding. But in fact, all the hearings and the rest of, the relationship with the courts was physical. Right now, this has started to change. A lot of hearings are taking place by Zoom and by Cisco and other media. And there are some judges that are not very into it, but a lot, yes. And what is also changing is that the Ministry of Justice is right now very, running a law, an act, in order to make that compulsory in some specific cases. So this is going to be a very important also challenge and change. Regarding IDR, alternative dispute resolution method, is another completely, thing. They have, in some way, a lot of institutions have born digital. So we had the opportunity to handle all those hearings and to submit all that evidence by, in a digital way since the beginning. So as litigator lawyers or IDR experts, we had that from the beginning. What has changed, notwithstanding, it's right now also many of the biggest hearings are taking place online. The risk here is about cybersecurity. It's not that technology is not ready for that. It's about cybersecurity. And for that, there are many partners that are helping, those online platforms to be ready from an IDR perspective. For example, Thomson Reuters has developed a specific mechanism with the International Chambers of Stockholm, where they have submitted this platform that everyone can bring documents, and it helps also lawyers with e-discovery process. We will have the opportunity to discuss later how important for a lawyer defending a position is e-discovery, because it's where we spend the majority of our time, and those kind of investment is not seen as by the client as an added value task. So there is where a lot of platforms has developed different resources in order to help us to with the e-discovery process. which is taking a lot. And we later we will go through the blockchain, utilization in IDR and within the court system, which has also advanced a lot.
Thank you so much, Marlene. You've been really covering two issues: what you're doing within your firm and what's happening in dispute resolution. Just going back to the firm again, and you probably answered this, but I just want to be clear on this, that I find innovation in law firms to be of two broad sorts. Sometimes, as it were, it's a pillar of the strategy, and sometimes it's as it were, the foundation of the strategy. So the pillar is where people are saying, over there, some people are doing innovation, we're carrying on being a normal firm. And the foundation one is saying, look, actually, this is for all of us. It's not just a separate team. Somehow this has got to be right across our organization. So within your firm, which is it? Is it a pillar or is it foundational?
I mean, we are trying to convert that in the foundation, but we didn't were born, digital or innovative. I think it's coming in a very natural way. But what we are doing this is a pillar right now. But in order to convert that in the foundation, we are trying, to involve as many people as possible.
Yeah.
And do so with little by little, with these quick wins, that is something that it's not a question of, willing, it's a need. So if we do not do that, we are not going to survive. So this for us is very clear for the board. So we are in the middle, in order to be honest with you.
No, that's fine. And the reality is hardly any firms are doing it in a foundational way, as I suspect all of our speakers can confirm. Now, I'm conscious of time. Why don't we have a little conversation amongst ourselves? And I know there's been a number of questions, and I want to reassure people who are listening in that we will finish on the dot at the top of the hour, because I know that's important to people. So if you'd unmute yourselves, team, and if you have any questions to ask of one another, now is the opportunity to do this. Frances, you look as if you were about to say something.
No, I was thinking that not really questions for between us. So maybe we can.
Well, let me ask you the same question I just asked Marlon then. To what extent are you foundational, or are you a pillar, as it were, within your firm?
Yeah, currently it's both. Okay, because I mean, it's so important to change the way we do things that it's still a pillar, but it's also now embedded as a foundation, as a security, as quality. It's really end to end. Okay, so because it has been a pillar, we have been able to engage a lot of people on these processes, and now we are embedding this innovation culture at every, as I see it, at every single department, at every single department of the firm. Not only lawyers, but also with lawyers. So, and we really do this process of demand management regarding new projects every day to build a portfolio of projects for the next year. And we have those relationships with all the business. Then we create this portfolio of both innovation and improvement projects for the whole year. So I would say it's being both, and the pillar probably focus more in terms of really being the leaders and the one that facilitates the innovation for the whole substract.
Okay, thank you. Gloria, to what extent do you think, are law firms moving quickly enough? Are they changing? Are you looking at alternative providers? How important is this to you?
Do you mean, Richard, if law firms are adapting quickly, or if
yes, because I know that your bank engages many external law firms. I'm just trying to get a sense of, is this kind of innovation and change important to you and your providers? Yeah. And secondly, are they changing quick enough?
Yeah, many things here. First, when we start visiting firms some years ago, we started visiting UK firms. And that's, for instance, that relates with a question from the audience as well, because they had a lot of innovation and a lot of things were happening there. But now we see the Spanish, I mean, I could talk about other markets, but as it goes about the Spain today, we are seeing the Spanish law firm, the Spanish legal market changing a lot, not only by the introduction of these alternative legal providers, but also law firms, and not only big size ones, but also medium sized ones. They are introducing a lot of technology and changing the way they work. The truth is that for us, this is very important because we feel that the pricing can change as well if they introduce technology. The services can be more flexible, more online for us, the communication with the firms. And I'm not talking about Teams or Zoom or whatever. I'm talking about the way we interact with firms can be better with technology. So for us, this is essential, Richard, and that's something we've been asking to our panel firms for a long time now, and we are seeing a lot of improvement.
Thank you for that. And Laura, going back to my pillar foundation, what are you finding when you go in to advise either in-house legal departments or law firms? Are you finding this is something separate on the edge, or are you finding this is something that people are trying to spread right across the business?
I would say for most law firms, it is still a pillar. And they are actually looking into transforming this pillar into a foundation. And that's many times where we come into place. That on a firm side, on an in-house legal department, it's first of all, it really depends on the activity of the company itself. And at the very, very end of what I found really innovative is that, for example, we've been training in legal design and a legal department, a big international company. We've been training all their legal department worldwide, and they are considering, because they were not using design thinking, and they're considering having their lawyers as facilitators of design thinking for the company. Not for the legal department, for the rest of the company. And that's really a huge shift for me to suddenly, I mean, sorry for you two ladies, but usually legal departments and lawyers are considered as the dinosaurs, but suddenly, instead of being the dinosaurs, they're the forefront of the innovation in a company. And that's really a very interesting shift. And I'm really looking forward to see how it develops.
So to summarize that, and this, what I find as well is that a few years ago, innovation technology was something that was very much in the basement, as it were. Now, and visually, I say pillar because I read a lot of strategy documents, and you see there's a diversity inclusion pillar. And I actually think pillars is the wrong way of looking at these things. But what I think is we have to move towards asking questions right across our in-house legal departments and our law firms and stress testing every bit of the business and seeing where's change needed. It's not a question of let's have some interesting projects on the edge, but we'll get there. That's where it's slow in the legal world, it's slow in other professional services too. I wonder if I could bring in Francis now, because we have just over 10 minutes to run and we have a couple of questions, and I want to give the panel opportunity, each member, to respond to the questions. So Francis, what do we have?
We've got some, so they're coming in. So we've got 3 questions. I'm going to start with Sarah. I do apologise if we got to you slightly late, but she started off with how to incentivize people to adapt and adopt legal tech. So I'll pass it over to you, Richard, to sort of see how you'd like to start that one.
Well, I think Laura, in a way, is the person to start there, because this really is at the heart of. Is it carrot or stick? How do you encourage people to change?
Well, I always preach for having the most reluctant ones on board since the beginning, I must say. I like mixing the enthusiasts and the non-enthusiasts, because that's actually a great way to really design a user-centric products or services. We actually have this exercise, which is extreme users, and we take into account like very, very diverse type of users. So when we have the most reluctant on board, then we listen, we take into account their criticism, which is usually very interesting and very helpful. And then once you have this reluctant people, then you have everyone in between. If you have like a small project with a team, not the most enthusiast one, and it works, and you have them as the ambassadors of what you've been doing, then you have the rest. So that's actually, leaving on the side the people not willing to adapt and to adopt. I think that's not the good solution, including them and taking them into account.
Okay. I've written about what I call the unlikely champion. So, because the likely champion, the person who for 25 years, like me, has been saying you need to change, or for longer, people just go, yeah, we've heard that. Yeah. The unlikely champion, someone who they think, gosh, if he or she's taking it seriously, there really must be something we should take notice of here. So that's one of my techniques, is precisely to try and find an unlikely champion. Now, Gloria, I suppose you're incentivizing two sets of communities, the internally and the providers to you. So maybe just a little bit in each.
A little bit of each. Do you mean of?
Well, no. How do you incentivize your own team to change, and how do you?
Yeah, with carrot or stick. Yeah, I'm more fan of carrot as a general rule. I would say for the team, for example, what we have done is a lot of involving them in the projects from the very beginning. We in the first times when we started, we involved with them, and now it has changed. So it is the team who proposes the projects. We analyze them, and then when we decide which projects are going to be taken each year, the teams lead the implementation. So my role is more overseeing and guiding, but they lead their own projects. So that as regards projects, but we have done also a lot of like innovation prizes, innovation contests, innovation training, exposure to legal tech and fintech forums and accelerators and things like that. So it is, I would say, like trying to change people's minds and their approach to technology. And also, if you talk about sticks, I said this is not my favorite option, but you can also include part of innovation projects as part of your objectives, and we have done it in the last years. So this is, I would say, not a very tough stick, but it's also a very strong message.
Okay, thank you. I am conscious of time, Francis. What I propose we do is that we've got 2 or 3 questions we want to answer. Probably only going to ask one person to respond, and to respond quite quickly. But it'd be quite nice if we could get through each one. So.
We did have a question before, Sarah, which was from João De Luca. So apologies, I slightly missed that one, but it was actually following Laura's and Franz, their points. So he said on their point about cultural adjustment, do you think there is a point to take into consideration related to the system of laws? There is a general, maybe unfair understanding that civil law countries tend to have a bit slower understanding adoption of legal technologies. Can you let me know your thoughts on this? So.
Okay, well, that's quite a substantive legal question, which I give views on, because I'm a Scots lawyer, which is half common law, English common law, and half European continental. But Marlene, I don't know if you have views on that. Do you, as you work internationally, do you see a difference between culturally, for example, or technologically between common law systems and civil systems?
Yeah, I would have to say that yes, a little bit. And the major part of that is also is because that the documentary evidence that we were talking about in the common system, I mean, you identify, like, you have to discover and to share the documents from, and you're born without perspective. And in a civil law system, we can hide, that information and just show the information that we want. So in the base, from the base, it's completely different, And but I think it's changing very rapidly. And when you talk about arbitration and IDR, you may not find that difference. Other thing that it's very important, I think is changing from a legal perspective, even in civil law countries, is the ODR system, no? The online dispute resolution system. We haven't spoken about that, but this is something that has been regulated in the European Union and is changing a lot to resolve those mini cases, if you permit me to say that way, with consumers or with banks that were replicating and were very massive and inundating the courts. So with this online dispute resolution system that is, pushed by civil countries, it's helping also to resolve those kinds of mini controversies that are collapsing all the courts.
Yeah, absolutely. It's one of my main interests. And it's not just in civil law jurisdictions. I saw recently a map of the United States with dots where there are online dispute resolution projects. And it looked like the map had measles. It was amazed. There's so many of these projects. Francis, we have 4 minutes and a couple more questions. Thank you, Marlon.
Yes, they are all coming there. We got some more coming through, but Henry Mayat, so he's asked a question. How do you effectively prioritize your products and solutions? We have lots of competing ideas and concepts from senior partners, colleagues, and can't deliver everything for everyone. Also, how do you transfer ownership and adoption of product roadmaps so that they continue to evolve through the product life cycle and do not stagnate?
Okay, well, this is very much, I think, in Francesca's territory. I think we can only take one of them, and I'm afraid you're going to have to be quite brief, but how do you prioritize? Whose decision is it? What's the process?
Yeah, it's a key thing. Yeah, of course. I mentioned before we have a yearly demand management process. We capture all the needs that from the business. Then we set up what we call a project page for them. So they have to realize what are the benefits, what are the risks, what are the involvements, what is the cost. Then with all this set, we really build a portfolio proposal. Then we sit one full day with the managing partner and with the CEO and with the financial director, and then with all the business line directors. And then we decide what are the projects that we are going to build next year. So this is a complete process because prioritization is really key for us.
That's very helpful. And I think what's very interesting there is we have to move from it being informal to being a more systematic, structured process. So that's very useful. Francis, last question. Make it a punchy one.
Oh boy, that's unfair. Putting me on the spot. I've got three to choose from. This is from Carlos. Clients want health, meaning a solution for their legal problem. But when choosing a good doctor, we all prefer the one provided with the best tools. In this sense, are legal clients aware of the tools that their lawyer have?
Well, that's a fascinating question. I'm going to ask Gloria to answer that because you are the client. And I think as we started with the client, we should finish with the client. So to what extent do you think that you're an informed user? You clearly are. We heard this today. But to what extent do you think across the in-house legal community, people are aware of the tools and facilities and new ways of working that are currently available?
Some years ago, I would say it was not so common, at least here in Spain, but now it's becoming more and more common. First, because law firms are showcasing what they have in prices and competitions and in their own pitches to clients. And second, because in-house departments are becoming more aware of that. So I think it's increasingly more important.
Thank you very much. That's a great place to end. Gloria, thank you. Marlon, Francesc, Laura as well. Thank you all for listening in. Francis, over to you just to say a formal goodbye.
Just want to thank everybody. So thank you all, Francesc, Laura, Marlene, Gloria, and Richard. Thank you all so much for today's discussion. I think we could have gone on for a lot longer, and I apologise for everybody whose questions weren't answered, but I will circulate, and then if anyone can answer, that would be wonderful, and we'll send back those from the panelists. So thank you all for joining us today, and from me, goodbye, and I hope you have a wonderful day.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.